I already know the title of this video. It's going to be, I'm nervous about furry conventions, ... And people are going to think it's about like some furry convention drama or about how fur cons have grown to the size that they have, that it's concerning the amount of people going in a small space, or how furry conventions are going to change as a whole because of how much they're growing and the fandom and community is growing, or so on. Nope, it's literally just I am stressed. Hi, how are you? My name's Beta, and today I want to talk about anxieties and worries and stresses with going into furry conventions, or what I like to call the Pre-Con Jitters. So first off, congratulations, you're going to a furry convention. Whether it's your first one, second one, 50th one, for my case, you're setting a designated weekend of your time to go to this event, this furry convention, social experience, to try new things, eat new foods, whatever it is, you're gonna have an amazing time. But at the same time, you have a lot of stresses and worries and anxieties about if that time is going to be as exciting as you're making it out to be. Or I guess if you're looking at how others have furry convention experiences, how others are making the FurCon out to be. You have worries about if you're going to be social or awkward, if you're going to be able to go and say hi to everyone, if you're going to have things to do where you're just left with nothing else to do and no one to hang out with. Especially that last one, with worries about if you're going to be alone at a furry convention because you don't have anyone to hang out with at a designated time. You know, I've been there before. Trust me, it is not necessarily great, but it's not the end of the world either. And I want to let you know, despite having those experiences of having nothing else to do, no one else to go to or hang out with at a social furry convention where everyone else is around one another, I still have an amazing time at the end of the day. So don't you worry about any of that happening, because trust me, you're gonna have a great time. Now, that's not to say that everyone will. You know, you might have some awful times at fur cons, and that's okay. You know, it's not the end of the world either. Give it a shot again if you want to. This is more of a motivational video I found for going into furry conventions when you have these anxieties about whether you see furry convention drama on Twitter, you see someone else having a bad experience, you worry about your own experience with getting to see the people that you want to, hang out with the friends you want to, or especially if you're gonna feel like you're fitting into whatever is going on, whether it's in the con space, or if you're getting invited to room parties, or if you're going to hang out with the friend group that you know and love from online, or if they're gonna like you IRL. You know, you have a lot of worries. You might have whatever worry under the sun, whether it's about the travel aspect of going to a furry convention, if your fursuit is going to get lost when flying there, if there are going to be food options, if it's financially a stable decision, which in this day and age, furry conventions are quite expensive. The bottom line is you want to make absolute sure in your head that the convention or event, that weekend that you are taking out for yourself, is going to be as fulfilling and awesome as either you're making it out to be or others are making it out to be. It's natural for us to focus on the negatives, the bad things that happen, and worry that that same thing might happen to us. We might not be able to do everything, and so these anxieties can add to potentially impeding on our experiences that we might have at cons. I will say that as someone who that has happened to, whether it was on my own end because I let the anxieties that I have inside me get the best of me, or something out of my control. Now, I just want to add as a little disclaimer, I am not a therapist. I am not giving mental health advice or advice specifically on dealing with anxiety from person to person, because this is just more in general of my own experiences and applying these anxieties to how I've gone and done about fur cons. But just understand that you got to focus on the good time that you're going to have rather than focus on the anxieties. I know it's a lot easier said than done, and that's why I say this is less of an anxiety advice video, because for me, my advice has always been like, if I have anxiety about doing X, Y, or Z thing, which is usually socially related, I just do it. I just do it. Don't worry about the anxiety. Just focus on whatever it is that you're doing. For me, it's like saying hi to a fursuit crush that I have, or saying hi to a friend, or introducing myself. A lot of times for me, instead of, you know, focusing on those anxieties, whenever I start to think about that, I've kind of trained myself to think about that one motivational Shia LaBeouf video. You know, the one from like back in 2015 where he's in front of that green screen going, "Just do it!" Like, I unironically play that over in my head to help get me through whatever it is that I'm feeling, and then I just go and do it. And a lot of times, 99% of the times, it just kind of pushes the boundaries on me being more social, and almost nearly never has any sort of bad repercussion or negative reaction. And even if it has in times, I just reel it back a bit. I take it on the cheek and understand, you know what? Live and learn for next time. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. Even if I fail or lose, it doesn't mean that I won't win or succeed in the future. And I just kind of take it as it goes. So for the context of even doing this video, I just got back from Furry Week in Atlanta 2025, a furry convention that I've been to 4 years in a row back to back now. And for me, it's nearly my 50th furry convention that I've attended. I know I've attended a lot of fur cons in the past 7 to 8 years I've been a furry. I'm very blessed and happy to be able to have these opportunities to do so, but thinking about it now, holy fuck, that's a lot of conventions. I still went into FWA this year having the pre-con jitters, or having anxiety and worries about how the convention was gonna go. Literally, I was on my flight there, and granted, I was overall excited and so happy to be able to see everyone, to have the experiences that I was inevitably going to have. And it wasn't my first rodeo with having anxieties, but I was. On my plane ride there, I was worried and a little stressed about if I was gonna have the most fulfilling or fun time that I was exciting myself for it to be. Especially in the wake of last year's FWA, which for me wasn't exactly the best, but that was more for reasons that I was more in control of than anything else. But the bottom line is, I still have anxieties with going to furry conventions, but despite the amount of furry conventions I've been to, I still have anxieties and worries about how each one I'm gonna go to is gonna pan out. I kind of like to picture myself in a situation or scenario of how the con is going to go in my head, of like, oh, beta at FWA 2025, how is that going to go? Well, I picture myself on like the 10th floor in the food court getting coffee, a couple of other scenarios like with fursuiting with friends going around, but I can't clearly picture it. And that's more of something that I've done in years past to help kind of ground me to some extent. I was sitting there on that plane ride there. It was about like an hour and a half, 2-hour flight. And I was really stressed. I was worrying about what it was that I was going to do, if I was going to have a good time, and a couple of other anxieties that I actually ended up journaling in my notebook. I feel like fucking Steve from Blue's Clues, our handy dandy notebook. I actually kind of look like him a little bit. But after being picked up by my friends, heading to the airport, and being on my flight to the con itself, I was really stressed and worried about how the con itself was going to go. I had a couple of different worries about like what ifs, about things that I saw and heard online, because, you know, I'm terminally online, sadly, and I didn't want these anxieties to get out of control. So luckily, I ended up writing down a lot of these feelings in my little notebook, my journal. It's something that still helped me. It's relevant to the past few videos that I've done, where it's something, instead of tweeting things out or just kind of letting things fester in my head, I journal it in a physical notebook. And what I ended up doing was I wrote down my feelings and anxieties that I was having with going into FWA, with going into the furry convention. And what I wanted to do is use it as sort of a basis to reflect upon after the con was over, to see if any of those anxieties or worries were validated, actually happened or not, and if they did, what I ended up doing to get past them. But I'm sharing this part of it because it might actually help a lot of you watching this who might also have anxieties, whether it's social, or I guess mainly social in this case, for how a furry convention will go. So either way, I'm just gonna read through what it is that I was feeling and what I wrote down in this notebook. Pre-con jitters before FWA. I'm nervous, scared socially, anxious, despite having nearly 50 cons under my belt so far. The main thing is, I don't know what will happen. Despite the amount of cons that I've been to, you don't know what your next experience is gonna be, and that can be very anxiety-inducing. Twitter and social media tends to awfulize and catastrophize about things happening, which that's absolutely true. You might have 100 people saying that, oh, this experience was good, versus that one negative experience that happened where someone didn't have a bad time, because you can feasibly or somewhat empathetically see yourself kind of in that situation. It's hard not to focus when negative people are easy to focus on. And that's true. Naturally, it's so much easier to focus on what is wrong rather than what's going right. And that's something that I've just noticed in time. Like I could have like 100 people saying I'm doing something good, or saying, oh, you did a really good video, and then have one person negatively nitpick one of my videos, and it might hit close to home for some of my own anxieties or insecurities, so I might focus more on that rather than the hundreds of people saying that something's good. From my average perspective, you see or hear these con horror stories online, or bad things or people, and naturally, you might worry about it. You might worry about being followed back to your room by a gaggle, as one of my friends put it. You might worry about being harassed or hate crimed in the area. You don't know what will happen. I did a break in this journal entry to kind of reassure myself, or give myself some grounding for what was to come. Remind myself, I'm in control of my own experience. I gotta go into it to have a good time, not worry about the bad things that will happen. Worrying is the killer of spontaneous joy. You can't please everyone. Worry about yourself first. And especially one thing that an old friend of mine told me, don't let anyone ruin your good time. The online furry community is different from the IRL/event/in-person side of the furry community, and the latter is what it's about. And that is absolutely true. There is quite a shift in difference between like the IRL event in-person portion of the furry community with like furry conventions, events, what it really is kind of about in celebrating it, versus like the online internet culture part of the furry community, because that is much more vast and much more different than we are used to kind of seeing or knowing about it. Many more people that we might not even know about too. So for what I ended up more or less writing down about my worries or anxieties with going into FWA wasn't just about like the social aspect of like, am I going to be able to hang out with the friends that I want to? Will I be welcomed or invited to do certain things? Will I be able to go to room parties? Will I feel like I fit in? I've had worries about that in the past, but I've had many reassurances in years past by friends of mine who I hold near and dear to my heart, who have told me like, Beta, you have like following privileges. You can join us for whatever we're doing. When I heard that last year at Megaplex, I nearly cried on the spot. I was so happy because that's just kind of the reassurance that I need sometimes from friends, because I love spending time with them, and I don't know if anything might shift or change within the span of a day or so that I might not know about, but that's also just insecurities on my own end that I've been working on. A lot of it kind of revolved around the feeling of focusing on what Twitter or what social media had to say about how furry was going, about how furry conventions were, or about how the furry experience was, about how I was doing, versus like actually experiencing it myself and going out into the real world and not paying attention to Twitter. Genuinely, I think this is something that everyone should do, unless there is a way that you can kind of compartmentalize it. Stay off of furry Twitter when you're at a convention. Have a good time at that convention and don't worry about anything else. More of the anxieties that I had going into FWA had to do with like socializing with new people, because truthfully and sadly, I had been terminally online very, very frequently before that con. I had barely gone out and interacted with people even on weekends. I spent a lot of my time working and grinding, kind of slaving away at some videos and doing streams and whatnot. And so for me, I didn't really have like the social basis to interact with people. I was worried like, am I going to be socially awkward? Am I going to have the social battery that I want to going into this con to have an amazing time all nights of the con, going from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to Saturday, and even Sunday, having a really good social battery for that con. I was also worried about hearing and seeing some of the negatives and negative Nancy's that you see on Twitter, that would bleed into the actual furry convention experience for me. I found that people are very mean and awful on Twitter and social media. Wow, what a shocker there for that one, Beta. I was worried that a lot of people who were being creepy or weird to me on Twitter, or being really mean and actually threatening me and my safety for the con to some extent, I was worried that I was going to have to be on guard and if it was going to have to dictate my experience at the con. Be in control of what you want to do. You know, don't feel like stressed or worried about fulfilling everyone else's obligations. Fulfill the obligations of you. One of the things that I actually ended up doing to try and make my furry convention experience a whole lot better was just not pay attention to what was going on Twitter that weekend. I'd occasionally check to see if friends were out and about or to see the cute fursuit photos from like the aquarium event at FWA, but whenever something came on the feed of like someone hanging over the railing or someone being pepper sprayed, I'm like, worry about that later, after the con. Acknowledge it a little bit that it happened, just so I can keep on the lookout, but just like, don't focus on it, because that is going to ruin my good vibes and good feelings at the moment, and I can really focus on it or pay attention to it after the con. Just focus on what's going on then and there and now. Point being, for me, I was in more control of my own experiences and having the time that I wanted to, and all I really had to do was not let one thing or one person ruin my good time, not let the negatives outweigh the positives, because the positives are so much more and so much more worth enjoying rather than focusing on that one little thing that went wrong. And for me specifically, with what I had to deal with at the con, that might have been, I guess, a roadblock or bump in the road for my experience, was two things specifically. The first one was that I didn't recognize a friend who I thought at the time was a weird follower fan who was stalking me. And when I recognized a day later that the friend was actually a friend that I knew, I felt so fucking bad. I felt so bad about how I compartmentalized it mentally, about how I might have treated them, or the first impression that I left since I was just meeting the guy. And what I just ended up doing, I'm like, you know what? Instead of worrying about it, talk about it. Do it here and now. The guy's in front of me, let me talk to him. And so I explained how I was feeling, how things went. I apologized, and we moved forward from that. And that made me feel a lot better. Taking care of things when I could, and being an adult, and talking about things in a confrontational but reasonable manner, that is good. Confrontation is pretty good, which is something I know furries don't really do. Confrontation isn't really a big thing furries do. Still, confrontation, really important and good. Highly recommend doing it within reason. The other thing that was more of a roadblock for me at FWA was the roach room situation. For those that don't know, I ended up having cockroaches in my hotel room, in the main hotel, which I was on like the first or second floor of the main hotel. God, it was so good. I didn't have to deal with elevator con at all. And then lo and behold, a giant ass cockroach crawls into my shorts on the ground, and I have to go to the front desk and Karen it up, and they end up moving us to another room. But it was just an inconvenience. I was worried like, okay, this is going to really impede on my time. I'm wasting time doing this when I could be at the con. But pretty much the whole ordeal ended up being no more than an hour or so. Switching rooms, moving our stuff, unpacking. And I was happy that it's over and done with, and all I had to do was just focus on the rest of the day. I didn't worry about that one little negative thing ruining my time. I just focused on the rest of the evening, and it was awesome. I went to the Twitch meetup. I got food with Frey and Cody, hung out with them. I got ready for the Moonlight Festival. I got into my really, really hot attire in my fursuit, and I was really happy about how I looked and how I felt. I went with friends. I had an amazing night. It was so good. Literally, the rest of that night outweighed that one negative experience, which granted for me, it would have honestly ruined my con if it was like years past and I wasn't a bit more emotionally mature. So it's just like, I had these roadblocks, but I understood, don't let these negative things or these happenings that happen ruin your good time. And if they do, how can you really offset it? How can you focus on the good? And that's what I did. I just focused on having a good time after that. Yeah, the roach situation sucked, and I might have wished that it didn't happen, but it worked out at the end of the day, and I still ended up having an amazing Saturday at that con. There's a lot that you don't know is going to happen at the con. You can't really predict how the event or the experience is going to go for you. It could go good, it could go bad. You're excited for it, but there's a lot of unknowns, especially at cons when we are designating a specific amount of time and money, a lot of money, to trying to have the best and most fun experience that we can, that we see others having. We really do want to make the best of it, and we don't want it to be this awful time that we regret doing and that we regret joining the fandom, which I feel like it's not as bad as it ever really is at the end of the day. But again, everyone's experience is their own. And at the end of the day, the times and experiences were good. And that's why for me, reading back at these anxieties and stresses that I had, it made me kind of ground myself more for conventions in the future with what to really worry about. Is there anything to worry about? And understanding, one, there's only so much that is in my control, and two, the things that are in my control, I am very capable of having my own experiences and having my own good time. I know this is more kind of loosey-goosey advice, motivational stuff, but it's honestly been advice that has helped me in the past 7 to 8 years of doing furry conventions, of joining and enjoying really the best part of the furry fandom, which is the conventions and meeting and interacting with the people. I know it might seem like doom and gloom with how social media is, but I promise you, and this is just a reassurance, that furry, the IRL portion of it, so much different than the online portion of it, making the lifelong experiences and the timeless memories that you'll take with you for the rest of your life. That's what the furry fandom is about, the IRL con experience. And even for me, going into the next furry convention, I'm going to be the guest of honor at Awustria, the furry convention of Austria this year. I'm going to be going to Austria. I am so nervous and anxious about it, but I'm so fucking excited. I've never been outside the US, I've never flown overseas, and I've never been to a non-US furry convention. I'm going to an area that I am not familiar with. I don't know what it's like being in a foreign country. I do have everything that I need in order to go in the first place, but it's just like I am so anxious and worried about it with like what ifs, but at the same time I am so fucking excited for it. Like the excitement is outweighing a lot of the anxieties, and a lot of the anxieties are things that I can plan and think about with regards to going to another country, you know, researching the area, you know, the country itself, the do's and don'ts, and sticking with friends and doing the routine that I'm used to having with regular conventions. Just focusing on the good time that is to come. Focus on the good that you can. Focus on where you are included and not where you're excluded. And just enjoy fur cons. I know there's a lot of anxiety going into it, but just Just do it. Go on and socialize. Say hi to that fursuiter you'd like. You know, I say it all the time. Don't feel like a stranger when you want to come over and say hi to me specifically, or anyone that you really enjoy what they do or what they make. Because we're all big weirdos that create things at the end of the day. That is what the furry fandom is about. Creative weirdos. We're creative weirdos with animal costumes. That's really it, you know? That's really what furry is in its essence. But either way, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. So on that note, thank you all for watching. That was an awesome outro. I'm gonna do that from now on, okay? If you enjoyed this video or have any thoughts or feelings about what I had to say in it, be sure to let me know in the comments. I greatly appreciate any feedback and support from you guys. And if you have any anxieties or worries about going into furry conventions, or even ways that you have overcome those worries with going to fur cons, be sure to let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your guys' stories or feelings about it. Also, if you want to support me more monetarily to be able to do this more and more, be sure to check out my Patreon, link in the description. If you want to check that out and support me there, you can see videos like this early, you get to be part of a community, maybe on like a Discord server thing. I don't really know how that works. I greatly appreciate you guys for listening to me yap about this. This is like one of those videos where after FWA, I'm coming back really worried if I'm in the groove for editing videos. Again, anxieties and worries. And you know what I do? I just do it. And I'm so happy with how this video turned out. Granted, it's been an hour and 40 minutes of me recording, but I had a good time. Either way, that's about gonna do it for me. Have a wonderful night. Take care. Life stay jacket. Treat people like people. And that's about it, guys. Take care.